Have you ever wondered how the clone stamp tool works in Photoshop? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the clone stamp tool in Photoshop. Coming up. Hey everybody, this is Charles Cabrera, helping you get started with Photoshop, Lightroom, and photography. If you're new to this channel and you like short and easy tutorials, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Let's get started. So in this example, we're going to start with a new layer, making sure that when we press S for the clone stamp tool, up here on the options bar, make sure we're on current and below. Our brush hardness should be somewhere in the middle so that we don't see marks from our cloning. If it's too hard or if it's too soft, it'll look fuzzy. The edges will look fuzzy. And there's one thing to note: if you ever start trying to use your clone stamp tool and the tool isn't working quite right, you can come up here to the clone stamp tool icon here on the top of the toolbar, and this gear icon to drop down here. You can come to reset tool. So again, that's if your clone stamp tool isn't working quite right, or you think something's off, just reset it. So I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger with my right bracket, and I'm going to take a sample of this bird. I think this bird needs a friend here. So Alt or Option, sample on the bird, and there is my sample. If I start painting, you see the plus down here that is actually with the sample point. And I'm just going to keep on sampling and painting another copy of this bird. I'm not going to worry about any of the areas around it. And one thing to notice up here is on the toolbar, the aligned is checked. So that means whenever I make a sample, it's going to basically follow, even if I lift up on the sample point. If I uncheck it, let me show you here with this leaf. Let me sample it. And if I lift up, it keeps on sampling back on the original point, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to follow my sample. So that's why I have the aligned check. So now this bird has a friend. So if I say Command T, bring up the free transform, right click and flip horizontal, and let's move this bird on this branch right here and click the check mark. So in these areas you can see I cloned a little bit too much. Always paint a little bit more than you need, and I come up here to the eraser and erase some of that away. So now I'm going to open the clone source panel, and I want to clone this little branch right here up over here on the right hand side. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to flip the clone source. So I'm going to click on the flip horizontal right there. My show overlay is checked. I'm going to sample right here. Here is my clone source, and say I want to nudge this along. I can use a keyboard shortcut, Alt Shift, use my arrow keys, and see I can nudge my sample any way I need to. If you need to angle it, Alt Shift and my right and left arrow brackets, and now I can start painting. Notice that the plus, the sample source, is going down because I flipped the sample source, and I can just kind of watch that as I'm painting as much of this branch down here as I want. I can even paint over the bird's tail there, kind of like that. And over here you can see I went a little bit too far. I can add a layer mask, paint with black, B for the brush tool, and paint back some of this area, a little bit of the feathers there, or anywhere else that I want to bring back. Here we have this photo of this handsome animal here. Let's remove these strong cables here and make it look like he's right in front of us. So to use the clone stamp tool, either type S on the keyboard for the clone stamp shortcut, or come over here to the left panel, and you can see here is the clone stamp tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on a new layer. So come down here and make a new blank layer. On the clone stamp options toolbar, make sure that sample is current below. That allows you to work on a blank layer. It's good to have a brush size that's maybe around 50%. You don't want it too hard, too soft. If it's too hard, you're going to see the clone stamp marks, and if it's too soft, edges are going to look too fuzzy. And I'm going to have the opacity and flow at 100. And right away with the clone stamp tool, if you press Alt or Option, and right here I'm clicking down here on this flower because I want to show you the sample. So here is a sample, and what you're seeing here is an overlay or a preview of the sample. And if you don't see this clone stamp icon up here, come up here to Window and make sure that clone source is checked. And this is a clone source window here. It's all the tools related to the clone stamp itself. If you don't see that preview, make sure this show overlay is clicked, and you'll see this preview like I'm showing you right here. One tip here is to clone the areas out that are easy to clone out first. So in this case, you're going to see that there's a lot of different texture in his fur here. We don't want to make it look like you can see all the cloning, so we're going to increase the brush size. Sample far enough away. As you can see, I'm just going to I'm almost clicking through right here this time, and kind of removes that pretty quickly. And another tip is when you sample near where you need it, but not too close, because if you sample right there and you start to paint, there's that X you see right there, that is a sample point. And sometimes if that's too close, you can have this problem here. You see where the cloning is going up above the area that you're trying to clone out. So you don't want to get too close, near enough where you don't have that little X get in your way. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to sample down here a little bit further and just go across like that. Sample down here and work my way. And sometimes it's going to depend on if you sample light areas or dark areas first. You'll know, and it's okay to go back over things, because a clone stamp takes some practice. What the clone stamp is really good at is going up close to edges like this, a hard edge, and it's good at cloning right up against there. So you can take your time and get in here and get all these edges on the elephant. And up here you might want to kind of map out in your mind how you want to clone certain things. I'm zoomed in here, and I'm going kind of with the plants here, trying not to make patterns, but zooming in is another way to help yourself. And if you make a mistake, what you can do later is on this layer here, you can put a layer mask, and paint over that with black to fix that area. And I have a video on layer mask, and see that in the card above. But you're probably going to have to make your brush smaller at times, and if you make mistakes, you just basically undo them. Or if you're making mistakes as far as matching color that you're trying to clone, you can try from top to bottom. One thing you can do is, if you have a lot of patterns, you can clone over certain areas. And because the nature of this photo, it's going to be a little bit more forgiving, but it's practice. Practice is what we need to do here. And some of this I'm going to speed up. The cone stamp is good at matching up angles too. Now, we've been going along a straight line, but here you see on the leg, there's obviously some angle to it. You zoom in here, so if I sample down here, it's a little bit of an angle on this guy's leg. And as you can see, it doesn't quite match up What I'm going to show you is if you use the keyboard shortcut Shift Alt and use the greater than or equal, you see it's shifting. I'm doing this a bit more than I need to, but just to show you. So if I get that about the right angle and bring that over and just click. So that's the idea there. What I can also do is I could sample another keyboard shortcut. Say if I want to nudge it up or down, right or left, Alt Shift, I'm on a Mac, you can use the arrows. You can see that the sample is changing, so you can position it that way. You can angle it with that shortcut key and just continue. And same here, I'm just getting this area here real fast, and just like before, if there's a little bit of curvature and angle, you just kind of line it up. Alt Shift and my greater than or equal than keys. So that took care of that angle, and I'll just continue to sample and take care of the rest of this cable here. So there we have it. This handsome elephant looks a little bit more free. There's the before and there's the after. So now to the question of the day. What do you think of the clone stamp tool? How are you using it? Let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you want more short and easy tutorials, see the ones above. And remember, it's never too late to learn. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.